Thank you.
Merhabalar, herkes hoş geldi. Bu akşam Kanada'nın ve dünyanın en iyi üniversitelerinden University of Alberta'yı ağırlıyoruz. Nicole Dewart bu akşam bizimle. Sorularınız olduğunda hemen ekranın sağ kısmındaki Questions bölümüne yazabilirsiniz sorularınızı. Sunum bittikten sonra Nicole sorulara da bakıp yanıtlayacaktır. Okay, stage is yours, Nicole. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining me today to learn about the University of Alberta. I will give you a little bit of information about the university, our location, as well as some of the grad programs, requirements, and kind of the standard kind of application admission process, which you'll find is quite similar across Canada. So if you're planning to apply to other universities in Canada, some of this information might be helpful for you. So I'm just going to share my screen now. Okay, hope everyone can see that okay. So first, a little bit about the location. So the University of Alberta is located in the city of Edmonton, which is the capital city of the province of Alberta. And so Alberta is more on the western side of Canada. You can kind of see on the map, it kind of looks like we're close to Vancouver, which is on the west coast, but don't let the map fool you. Edmonton and Vancouver are about an hour-and-a-half flight away, or about a 12-hour drive, because you would be going through the Rocky Mountains here. The other major city in Alberta is Calgary, which you may have heard of, and that is located about a 3-hour drive from Edmonton. So a little bit about Canada. We have a population of about 37.5 million people. Who live in 10 provinces and 3 territories, which is on the northern side of Canada. We have the second largest landmass in the world, and we have 6 different time zones. Canada is officially a bilingual country, so English and French, but more than 200 different languages can be spoken in the country. So in Alberta, you will find the majority of services are, people speak English. French is more in the provinces of Quebec and New Brunswick. 1 in 6 Canadians are an immigrant to Canada, so that kind of speaks to the diversity of Canada as a country. And 90% of colleges and universities are public institutions, so that's a guarantee of, high quality education in Canada. So a little bit about Edmonton. As I mentioned, we are Alberta's capital city, population of approximately 1 million people. We are a major economic hub, and we are, because we're the capital, we are the government center of the province. We have a clean, safe environment and a lower cost of living. Another thing I'll mention is we are considered Canada's festival city. So, it doesn't matter what season or what time of the year, there's always lots of things to do and festivals to check out. Except obviously during COVID, things have kind of been put on hold. And we also have the largest urban park space in North America. And the University of Alberta campus is right next to that park space. So you have easy access to cycling trails, walking, jogging, things like that. A little bit about the province of Alberta. It's a population of about 4 million people. We are considered Canada's top energy producer. So if you are considering doing a graduate program related to energy, Alberta is a great place to do that. We do have a beautiful natural environment, as you can see in the photo here of the Rocky Mountains here in Alberta. And we have 6 UNESCO World Heritage Sites to check out in the province. So a little bit about the University of Alberta now. We are ranked number 4 in terms of research-based universities in Canada, and we are ranked number 81 in the world for our research impact. As you can see, like I noted some of the top ranked programs here, like forestry, petroleum engineering, transplantation geology, paleontology, and sports. Those are our top 10, but we have a number, dozens of other programs ranked within the top 50 in the world, and even more within the top 100. So for example, our programs in physiology, education, earth sciences are all ranked quite high. We have over 40,000 students at the university from 156 different countries. Over 7,000 of those students are international students. When you look at our graduate student population, the percentage of international students is even higher. 40% of our master's and PhD students are international students. So, you know, you'll be doing your studies here with students from around the world, as well as professors and staff from around the world. Another thing I will note is we are ranked number 2 in Canada for graduate employment rates. And what this means is that, you know, University of Alberta graduates are some of the most qualified and sought after by employers. So they're considered well prepared for their career after they graduate. So here is a list of all the different faculties at the university that offer master's and PhD programs. As you can see, we have a wide variety. We're a very comprehensive university, so we're very strong in STEM subjects, but have very strong arts and humanities as well. I'm not going to have time to go through all of these, but I just thought I would give some brief highlights of some of those bigger faculties that you might be interested in. So to start off, our Faculty of Medicine and Dentistry, this is one of our biggest faculties. We have some of the most modern and well-equipped facilities in Canada. We have a teaching hospital on campus. They have 20 different departments and 15 centers and institutes, most of which offer graduate programs. We are well known for our research in areas like diabetes, neuroscience, virology, and actually one of our professors just won the 2020 Nobel Prize with his work in hepatitis C virus. Pediatrics, cardiovascular, and we're ranked number 6 in the world for transplantation research. Our Alberta School of Business, we are ranked among the top 4 in Canada and among the top 100 in the world. We have some pretty unique specializations if you're looking at our MBA program. So things like energy finance, operations, public sector and healthcare management, which has proven to be a very important topic right now, strategy and consulting, and real estate. One thing I will note is there are, especially in the MBA program, there are lots of opportunities for internships if you're wanting to gain some career experience. And there are a number of centers and institutes within our School of Business dedicated to building connections to the business community, such as our School of Retailing and Center for Corporate Responsibility. Our Faculty of Agricultural, Life and Environmental Sciences, this is a very broad faculty. They cover a number of different areas related to the life sciences. So nutrition and food science, agriculture, renewable resources. So that looks at topics like wildlife conservation and reclamation. We are ranked number 5 in the world for our forestry programs. We also have resource economics and environmental sociology, which is a very unique program and kind of combination of topics. And we also have research in this department in areas like textiles, human ecology, so like families, aging. And there are lots of opportunities in this department to do dual degrees. So for example, you could do a master's in agriculture or forestry combined with an MBA program in our School of Business. Our Faculty of Engineering, you know, a number of different specializations I note here. Some of the bigger ones like biomedical, chemical and materials, civil and environmental, and within that department is petroleum, mining engineering, computer and electrical, mechanical, and engineering management, which is a unique option for engineers who maybe are looking at an MBA. This might, you know, engineering management might be a good option as well. Our mining engineering program is ranked among the top 18 in the world, and petroleum engineering, it's the largest and oldest program in Canada, ranked at number 5. So a lot of our specializations in engineering fall under areas related to nanotechnology, nanoscience, system modeling, communications and technology, advanced materials and structures, and design and manufacturing. Our Faculty of Science, so these are the 7 main departments that offer graduate programs in our Faculty of Science. Biological sciences, chemistry, computing science, earth sciences, math, physics, and psychology. And our psychology program is also combined with our Faculty of Arts. So depending on what area of research you want to do in psychology, you could either do it within science or arts. Our geology program is among the top 5 in the world, and our research in artificial intelligence and paleontology are among the top 3 worldwide. In addition to research in these areas, we also offer specialized master's programs in areas like integrated petroleum geoscience, multimedia, statistical machine learning, and urban and regional planning as well. So like I said, that's just some of the highlights of some of our bigger programs. If I didn't mention the one you're interested in, I'd encourage you to check out our website just to see what other research areas we offer and if it's a good match for you. Like I said, we have 18 different faculties, so there's lots of programs to choose from. Now, in terms of our facilities, the one big one I'll note is the National Institute for Nanotechnology and NanoFab. So this is a huge facility. It's state-of-the-art technology. It's the largest facility of its kind within Canada. It receives funding from both the governments of Alberta and Government of Canada. So we have a lot of researchers from, you know, around Canada and around the world that come to do their nanotech research at the U of A campus. We have a new building called the Centennial Center for Interdisciplinary Science. So that's for a lot of our Faculty of Science programs. So it's a state-of-the-art building, lots of advanced labs. Our Edmonton Clinical Health Academy is also a very new building on campus. It houses all of our pharmacy and nursing programs. So again, like state-of-the-art facilities and teaching spaces for students in those disciplines. We have Canada's 2nd largest library collection. So you'll have access to over 1,700 different databases. Technologically advanced classrooms. Like I mentioned, we have a teaching hospital on campus. And the photo here on the side is of our Tim Centre for the Arts, which is Canada's best theatre training facility. So in terms of housing options on campus, there are lots available. There's over a dozen different residences on campus. Some of them are dedicated just to graduate students. You have a choice if you want to live by yourself or if you want to live with roommates, kind of depending on what your budget is. As long as you apply before April 30th, you are guaranteed to have housing for the fall semester, so starting in September. There's also meal plans available, you know, with vegetarian, halal options, so you'll be able to access your meal plan at lots of different restaurants and cafeterias on campus. But if you prefer to live off campus as well, we have lots of resources and great websites to check out for other options. Services and supports. For all students, you have access to the Student Success Center and the Center for Writers. So these offer a lot of great workshops. For grad students in particular, they focus a lot on things like how to write a thesis proposal or a literature review, or maybe you are going to be presenting your research at a conference. They have workshops for how to best do that. Our Center for Writers has free tutoring, so you can connect with another student who is advanced in your area. If you have a piece of writing that you'd like them to review, they can give you some tips and advice on how they think you could improve that. We have a lot of health services on campus, so a health center, pharmacy, counseling. All graduate students are included in a mandatory health and dental insurance plan. So that amount is kind of included in your tuition and fees each semester. We have recreation facilities for students to use. So with your student ID card, you have free access to gyms, climbing walls, swimming pools, different courts, and you get a discount if you want to take any recreation classes. We have over 450 different student groups and clubs, and we have an International Student Services Center. They're responsible for ensuring a very thorough international student orientation for all new students coming to campus. And they provide specialized services like immigration advisors. They have an English conversation club and plan lots of different events and activities for international students. In terms of working while studying, all international students with study permits are allowed to work up to 20 hours per week during your studies. So as a graduate student, you might be interested in working as a research or teaching assistant. We have a career center on campus that can kind of give you some help and guidance if you're doing a job search. And some faculties have their own career centers as well. So for example, business and engineering that have strong connections to industry, they have more specialized support for students in those faculties. And all graduate students, as part of your master's or PhD program, you are required to complete a professional development plan. So you kind of create an individualized career plan, and then you have to attend a certain number of workshops throughout your program to kind of help you work towards your career goals. I will also note after you graduate from your degree program, international students in Canada can apply for a postgraduate work permit, which allows you to work in Canada after you graduate for up to a maximum of 3 years. So that's a great way to get some work experience in Canada. Now, moving on to kind of graduate degree programs. When looking at master's degrees, there are 2 different types. We have thesis-based masters. So that's where you do a few courses at the start of your program. but they're going to be courses that are going to be giving you the foundations you need to do research in a particular area. So you do coursework, research, and then you write your thesis and have your final defense. So a thesis-based master's program can typically be completed between 2 to 3 years. It kind of depends how you progress in your research. A course-based master's is just that. You primarily just take courses, and then you have a small final project at the end of your program. A course-based program can typically be completed in 1 to 1.5 years on average. So to get into a master's degree program, most departments will require that you have a bachelor's degree in a related area for that. A doctoral degree, you do some coursework again at the beginning, but it's going to be coursework that's going to help you with your research. So you do your coursework, your research, candidacy exam, and then final thesis. A doctoral degree in Canada normally takes on average 4 to usually a maximum of 6 years. Again, it kind of depends on how you progress in your research. And admission to a PhD is typically, you should have a master's in a related area. However, I have seen some students who have, very strong grades in their bachelor program and maybe have some research experience in their bachelor. So in those cases, a department might be willing to consider a student for a fast track. So kind of skipping the master's and going directly into a doctoral degree. In terms of admission requirements, we focus on, your grades in your last 2 years of your full-time studies. So we're looking for an average of 3 out of 4 or 70%, kind of depending on what your grading scale is for your university. So yeah, so if you did poorly in your first year of your bachelor program, that's okay. We're not going to look at the grades for that. It's only going to be your last 2 full-time years. In terms of English requirements, we typically need to see at least 6.5 on an IELTS or a 90 on the TOEFL, the IBT. I will note with COVID, some testing centers in some countries are closed. So we are right now accepting the Duolingo online exam as well. And so we need a minimum score of 115 on the online Duolingo exam. I will note these requirements are the absolute minimum standards for our Faculty of Graduate Studies, but it's important to check the website of the department you want to apply to because some departments might request higher. So for example, if you are wanting to do a graduate program in health sciences, medicine, they typically want to see a higher English score. Or if you want to get into a very competitive program like economics, they might want to see a higher grade average, like a 3.5 out of 4, something like that. So it's very important to do research on the specific department that you want to apply to. In terms of documents that you will need to apply for a graduate program, usually with the online application, you upload PDFs of your CV or your resume, your university transcripts, so showing all of your courses and grades, and degree certificates. So that's for all programs that you've done in university. We'll need to see both the original language documents and official English translations as well. If your university doesn't provide an English translation, you can go to any certified English translator in your home city, as long as they can certify that document and sign that they are an official translator, that's fine. Your English test score, a statement of research interest, which I will get into a little bit later. We need 3 references. So when you submit your online application, you provide the names and email addresses of 3 references. Preferably, people who can speak to your ability to, succeed in a graduate program, especially if you're planning to do research. It can be a combination of academic and work experience references. If you are wanting to do a research-based graduate program, we should have confirmation from a professor at the university who has agreed to supervise your research-based program. So I'll talk about that a little bit later. And some departments might have additional requirements. So a GMAT or GRE score is quite common for students wanting to apply to business school or economics. So again, it's good to check the website of the department you want to apply to, just to see if they have any extra requirements. Some other things to consider, like I mentioned, if you're required to find a supervisor before you apply, I would say normally if you're wanting to do a research-based program, the vast majority of departments will require this. If you want to do a course-based master's, it's not necessary to find a supervisor. Like I just mentioned, you should check to make sure you don't need to do the GRE or GMAT. I know these tests are a lot more common in the United States, but within Canada and at the University of Alberta, it's a small minority of programs that will require that. It's also important to check out the start dates for the program that you want to apply to. So all programs have a September start date. That's when the vast majority of students start their studies. Some programs will only have a September start date, but some might have a January start date as well. So it's important to, plan ahead as to when you hope to start so that you know when to start your application process and finding a supervising professor, which I always encourage students to, start that research and start that process a year before you want to start your program. Conditional admissions, I always mention this, for students who maybe don't quite meet our English requirement yet. Maybe you're working on it, but you need to have admission for maybe a scholarship application. Some departments might consider offering conditional admission, so that you have an admission letter, but it says you need to meet the English requirement by a certain date before you start your program. So some departments might be flexible. Now, finding a supervisor for your research, if you're wanting to do a research-based program here, you'd have to check the website of the department you want to apply to, view the profiles of professors that have similar research interests as you, and then you're just going to email those professors directly. So I say start with your first choice professor, email them your CV, your transcripts, your English score, and a statement of research intent, and then just suggest to the professor perhaps a day or time to meet via video chat to discuss it. I typically give the professor, 1 to 2 weeks to respond because professors can be quite busy and it takes them a while to respond sometimes. Then you can send them a little reminder if you don't hear anything back. If you still don't hear anything after the reminder, then I would recommend just moving on to your second choice professor and continuing on. Some professors just maybe don't have space, so they're not responding to requests for supervision, or they just don't have time to look into prospective students when you contact them. So it's just good to move on to other professors. If you are planning to apply for a scholarship from the Ministry of National Education in Turkey, you can let me know because part of my job is to update professors on that scholarship and our agreement with that sponsor. Now, one of the documents I mentioned that's very important is a statement of research intent. So this is a 1 to 2 page document that you're going to direct towards the professor who you'd like to do your master's or PhD research with. Like I said, this isn't really needed for a course-based master's. So if you want to do research, you're going to talk about why you want to work with that particular professor. What about their research interests you? Talk about how your research interests are related, how your background and your experiences will be beneficial to that professor's research group, and your goals after you're completed your graduate studies. The one piece of advice I will give is do not write one general statement that you can then just hand out to many different professors. I've heard, feedback from professors that they don't particularly like this. They get it all the time. They want to see a more targeted statement from students where, you can highlight, show that you've done your research on that professor and you've taken the time to get to know their research and their publications. That really stands out from a professor a lot more. And when professors are getting multiple different requests for supervision from dozens of students, you really want your statement to stand out to a professor. Now for tuition, at the University of Alberta, tuition amounts are guaranteed, which means the amount will not increase during a standard course of study. So when you get admission, the tuition amount that's listed on your admission letter, that amount will be the same year after year. It's not going to increase in future years for you. So for a research-based, thesis, master's, or doctoral degree, it's about just over 10,000 Canadian per year. A course-based master's is a little bit more. It's on average just over 13,000 per year. It kind of depends on how many courses you do in that year. I will note the Masters of Engineering course-based programs and the MBA program are much higher. So a Masters of Engineering course-based is closer to 20,000 Canadian per year. And an MBA is more like 60,000 Canadian for the program. Now, in terms of funding, we do have some of the highest average funding in Canada, especially for thesis, research-based master's students at just over 20,000 Canadian per year. And the third highest for doctoral student funding in Canada. Now, course-based masters, there's not a lot of funding or scholarships available. Most funding for graduate students is for those doing research-based programs. If you reach out to a professor, they are interested in supervising you, so you apply. If you are admitted, if they feel like you are a competitive applicant, they will likely make you a funding offer. You won't know what that funding offer will be until after you are admitted. Now, I did mention that the University of Alberta has a co-funding agreement with the Ministry of National Education in Turkey. So we each kind of provide funding to students with that scholarship. So the funding is a maximum of 2 years for a master's and 4 years for a PhD. This co-funding agreement and scholarship is only for research-based programs. So a thesis-based master's or PhD. If you're wanting to do a course-based master's and you want that scholarship, unfortunately, it doesn't apply to course-based masters. We're unable to provide that U Alberta funding for those programs. So this leads me to my program, which is the Sponsored Student Program. So I specifically advise international students who have funding from organizations like the Turkish Ministry of National Education. So my job is to connect these scholarship recipients with professors at the U of A and kind of help guide you through that application process. And then if you're admitted and you have the scholarship from Turkey, then I will continue to kind of help and be your advisor in terms of things like tuition invoicing and payments and things like that. So that's all the information I have for you today. We'll kind of move on to some questions, but if you think of anything later that you'd like to ask me, you can reach me at uaissp@ualberta.ca, and I'd be happy to address your questions or refer you to the appropriate department that you want to apply to. So I will stop sharing my screen and we'll move to kind of the chat function. So let me see here. So I see a question. It looks like a master's or PhD in project management, big data, business, industrial engineering. Yes, we do have programs on all of those. You would kind of have to be more specific, like industrial engineering would be more in our Department of Mechanical Engineering. You could also check out our PhD program in business. There are very few spaces available in our business PhD program. They only accept, maybe 2 to 3 new international students every year. But yes, you can check out our engineering and business websites to see what their research is. I'm seeing lots of hellos. Hello back to all of you.
Nicole. There are many questions in questions box.
Yeah, I just got to that. Yeah. So I see the first question is career opportunities in Alberta for international students after graduation. Yes, like I mentioned, you can apply for a postgraduate work permit if you want to stay in Canada and get some work experience for a few years. Career opportunities, it really depends on what your career is. You don't have to stay in Alberta. So for example, if your career is in, film or theater, a place like Toronto or Vancouver might be a better place. When you get a postgraduate work permit, you don't have to stay in the city where you studied. You can go anywhere in Canada to get that work experience. Right now with COVID, job searches are tough everywhere. So hopefully, once things get back to normal, once things improve with COVID, hopefully more opportunities will be available then. I see there's a question about conditional acceptance if you don't meet the language requirement. Yeah, like I mentioned, some departments will consider this, especially if you have a deadline, if you are needing to apply for a scholarship, you need an admission letter. I can kind of help you with that process and making that request. It kind of depends on the department you apply to. Some are more flexible than others. So I'm happy to kind of, if you want to email me, we can talk about what program you want to apply to and if they would do that. I have a question about specific programs for international students for career opportunities. All of our programs are open to international students. So it kind of, you need to focus on what your background is and what you want to do your research in. It's hard to narrow down. Like I said, we're a very comprehensive university. all programs are open to international students. So it's kind of up to you and your background and your career goals. I see a question about minimum GPA for petroleum engineering. I believe they require a 3.0 out of 4, or I believe that would be a 70% on the Turkish scale. Again, like I said, they will only look at your last 2 years of full-time studies when calculating your grade average. Hussein, can international students apply for master coursework for any program where all of them are research? Yeah, not all of our departments offer course-based programs. You would need to check the website of the department that you want to study in. A lot of them do offer both course-based and research, which are available to international students. So yeah, all of those options are available. It's just, it depends on what department specifically you want to apply to. Do you require previous IT education or work experience for business analytics programs? This is something that we would need to, contact our School of Business directly for. They would have to kind of determine that. They would look at your CV, your transcripts, your work experience, and they would make that determination when they're looking at your application. Is GRE required? Like I mentioned, for the vast majority of our programs, it's not required. I can say there are a few programs that are more competitive that do require it, like business, economics, psychology, and resource economics as well. So those are the 4 that I can think of that it definitely is required. But the vast majority of our programs do not require a GRE. Faiza, how long does it take for the application process after submitting documents? Unfortunately, we don't really have a standard time frame because at the university, we're very decentralized. So each department has their own application process, their own deadlines, they have their own procedures. So some departments might be very fast. It might be, 1-2 months. Some departments might take a little bit longer. It kind of depends on the department you want to apply to. But if you are planning to apply for a scholarship from Turkey and you need to have an answer by a certain time, just let me know and I can inform the department about that so that they can have a decision made by that deadline. Do I have a chance to get acceptance with a lower than GPA for a master's program? It's a lot harder. In the cases that I've seen it happen, if you're close to the 3.0, but maybe just a couple points below, if you can find a professor who agrees to supervise you and feels like you would still be a strong candidate, that professor might be willing to advocate for you. But ultimately, the decision is kind of with a graduate committee within the department. But having the advocacy from a supervising professor would help. So it's not impossible, but it just is a bit harder. Okay.
This question is already exist in chat box.
Yes.
So I already replied.
Yeah.
Nicole.
Thank you. Question, I work as a nurse in the state of Turkey. I had to give up my job here to get my master's degree. In such a case, what are the stages after completing my master's program there? I'm not sure what you mean about what are the stages after completing your master's here. if you mean you're looking for career opportunities. If that's it, I can't say for certain. Like, it would be best to contact the department you want to do your master's in to get their opinion. But if I'm misunderstanding the question, let me know. And maybe feel free, if you want, to email me at the uaissp@ualberta.ca email. If you want to get into more detail, I'm happy to
By
help.
the way, Nicole, could you please type your email to chat box so participants can copy?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you. Put that in right now. Minimum admission requirements to apply for grad studies in computer engineering. I believe that's a 3.3 out of 4 is what they typically look for. If it's a little bit lower, I think they would be flexible, but it has to be at least, you know, the minimum of 3 out of 4. Do I have to take an English score if I have a bachelor degree that was 100% in English? We do sometimes, we have some exceptions for some universities where maybe your programs were done exclusively in English. If you can provide a letter from your home university confirming that your entire program was done in English, we can present that to the department and see if they would be satisfied with that. Do we have a master's for physiotherapy and rehabilitation? Yes. So we have a faculty of rehabilitation sciences, and they have a focus on physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech language pathology. I think I've answered this question already as well. If you can work in Canada after your graduation, yes, you can apply for the postgraduate work permit, which you can work for. Usually it's the amount of time that you studied up to a maximum of 3 years. So I have a question. I want to be a lawyer. I want to go to a university in another country, but not sure about Canada or France. Can you tell me why I should study in Canada? You know, Canada and France are very, very different. So I guess it depends what you're looking for. Canada is a very, you know, multicultural country. So you will find communities from different countries. They have, you know, different communities set up within the city. So it's a very diverse city, lots of different languages spoken. You know, it kind of depends what you're looking for. France, you know, you're gonna, if hopefully you know some French, whereas Canada, you kind of have the choice. You know, if French is your language of choice, then we do have a French campus at the University of Alberta that has some master's programs in education and humanities, but most of our French programs in Canada are located in Quebec or New Brunswick. So it might be good to do some research on those provinces as well. When I graduate from physical therapy and rehabilitation, do I have a work permit in Canada? Well, you would have to apply for the postgraduate work permit. So as soon as you complete your master's program requirements and you have that confirmation, then you use that to apply for a work permit in Canada. Are there specific requirements for the Master of Arts, especially for women and gender studies? Typically, they're going to look at your GPA and your language requirements. And, you know, like I said, if you're going to be doing research in that area, it's just connecting with a professor and finding a supervisor for your research in that program. So I'm not aware of additional requirements for that program. These requirements for international students are also for Lebanese students. Yes, yeah. yeah, the requirements are the same for all students, even, you know, it doesn't matter what country you're from. We just kind of look at the different grading scales for different universities in different countries, but the requirements are the same. Okay.
Yes, Nicole, you have covered all questions. I checked the chat box. It was very, very informative session. Thank you for your great presentation. Let me thank to also participants in Turkish. Katıldığınız için çok teşekkür ederiz. Nicole e-mail adresini chat box'a yazdı. Sorularınız olduğunda kendisine e-mail yoluyla ulaşabilirsiniz. Yarın da saat 4'te ve 6'da webinarlarımız olacak. Onları da bekleriz. Thank you again, Nicole. Hope to see you
very much.
IEFT Talks.
Thank you, everyone.